awareness is your biggest protector. And really recognizing that, hey, I have boots on, they don't. Hey, I have gloves on, they don't. Hey, I'm up here and they're down there. And really recognizing the risks that our dogs can be exposing them to and being uber cognizant of that. And one of the ways we address that is something we call a T-check.
Canine Detection Collaborative. We bring the conversation straight to you. Training tips and helpful hints you'll actually use. Real insights from real experts with a side of laughs. Canine Detection Collaborative is where it's at. It all comes down to just one thing, helping our dogs be the best they can be. Canine Detection Collaborative.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Canine Detection Collaborative. This is Robin, and Stacy and I are going to pick up the interview from last time with Joy Brenner from Canine Medic. Now, in this episode, keep listening for hints on Acclimation and Decon, because it's really important stuff that we're doing with our dogs, and making sure that they're comfortable in the car is something all of us worry about. So here we go. The thing that's been really interesting for me is you were talking about temperature having momentum, right? And I have become fanatical about Nico having fans in his crate.
Yeah.
Even in the dead of winter, his fan is at least on low.
Interesting.
And because he's gotten too hot in his crate.
Yes.
Yeah. Can we talk about crates and temperature?
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. I'm like, make sure we talked about the crates and
Deep dive on crates.
Yeah.
I have some new Rufflins coming. I haven't ordered the Primo pads because they're hot. They're vinyl. And I'm like, they don't breathe. At least that's what my brain goes to. So just even all of that structure. Oh, and the other thing I want to talk about before we forget are cooling vests, if they actually work.
Sure.
So let's go back to crates first.
Okay,
and
crates.
And because there's all kinds of crates. Like I have gunners.
Yeah.
Right. So the whole,
So crates are fascinating. So it's interesting. MWD dogs are not, and it depends on your team. But I know Spec Ops gets to do what Spec Ops wants to do. But for a lot of those handlers, they're not actually allowed to leave their dogs in crates at all, which when we're teaching is a bit of a challenge, because like we'll be like, put your dogs up, and they're like, no, ma'am. And I'm like, what? And I get that from a military perspective, and that's just to underscore that there is an inherent level of risk anytime we leave our dogs in the crates.
Right.
Having said that, I can tell you that my dog spends a lot of time in their crate. And I don't think it's something we avoid. And your local laws are your local laws, and
your policies for your department or your team
are your policies. Yeah, I don't want to override those, but I'm just going to speak to my personal experience. My dog Storm, and she's not here right now, but spends an incredible amount of time in the crate. And I actually use that time for climate adaptation. I use that time because she spends it in the car. It's a very controlled environment. And, I was one of those handlers 20 years ago where I thought I had to keep my dog cold all the time. Like I deployed to Hurricane Katrina with my first dog because, I'm that old. And, I got there and we just had AC everywhere as much as possible. And we'd go from super hot to super, and we'd actually literally just come from the subarctic to Katrina. So we had no heat adaptation on board at all. But I did not do my dog a favor by doing that. And I know that now, 20 years later. And so I use my crate to actually increase her ambient temperature exposure so that the delta, which is the difference between her car environment and her working environment, is reduced.
Right.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you just briefly. If you are a Nosework handler, you need to pay attention to this because Nosework handlers are notorious for wanting to run their car in the parking lot to keep that AC on cold to take their dog out and search. So if you're a Nosework handler, I just want you to put your little ears on right now and listen to our guest. Okay, sorry, Joy. I had to say that because I'm like, you guys need to listen to this.
Right. And I know law enforcement, they have to run their cars.
Yeah.
That's department policy.
Yeah.
Right.
You can run your cars and choose your temperature.
Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting because I'll go to trainings and I'll open up my car and I just have like Nico's fan is on just to keep the air moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's not like my car is cold or anything.
Yeah.
Right.
We're talking about the ambient. Sorry, I interrupted. I'm feeling
No, it's okay.
The delta.
Yeah. The delta, the difference.
Right. The difference between the ambient
temperature in the car.
Right.
And their working temperature.
And their working temperature. Okay.
Now, are you saying working temperature as their...
No, the environmental temperature. So say I'm in SoCal. Well, I am in SoCal. So if I had my AC set to 70 and outside it was 100, we'll say for easy math, it often gets hotter, then the delta is 30 degrees. Right. I'm asking my dog to perform in a temperature that she is not biologically adapted for.
Right.
So my goal is to reduce that delta. Now, if you look at the dogs who work safely and high performance, so functionally, because once a dog is panting, they don't scent accurately. And there's lots of studies that show that scenting through, and yes, I know they can taste scent, but it's less effective than going through their nose. So one is, even if they're trying to work, they're not effective. But if I ask my dog to work in 100 degrees and they were only programmed to 70 degrees, they're not going to be effective. And their safety margin, their work cycle is going to be incredibly short. So it's my goal to program her body to be closer to her working temperature. And so, as I was saying, if you look at the people who are most effective and safe in those environments, it's some of the military dogs that work downrange, and they live outside. And some of our federal handlers, their dogs live outside.
Yeah.
And it is an absolute heat adaptation advantage. There's some other risks, and you can mitigate those risks. Not every handler is going to make that choice. Does my dog sleep outside? No, only when I'm sleeping outside. But I know that I have robbed her a little bit of her biological advantage. And so now it's on my onus to pull other levers that can help her get back that biological advantage. And one of the ways I do that is because she does spend a lot of time in the car. Mm-hmm. That environment is not at 70 degrees. And for me personally, that is just below panting. So whatever that is for her that day. And of course, if I'm in a work cycle, I'm going to rehab her. I'm going to give her full air conditioning so she gets back to work faster. But if we're just chilling and I got a 4-hour, and yes, I do it when I'm driving as well. So yes, you don't want to drive with me in August because my AC is not, I need every biological advantage I can get on the mountain too.
Yeah.
But more handlers I know don't do it when they're driving, but like when they're at training or things like that. It's just below panting. She's not uncomfortable. She's resting happily. If she starts panting, then I'll change her environment a little bit so that it cools down enough that she's not panting. And what's amazing is last summer was the first summer we really dialed, well, actually, I guess 2 summers now in a row because it's December. It's our second winter season. Both seasons we've done it now. We saw that before we heat adaptate her, she would like pant at like 84, 85 degrees. She would start to pant in the beginning of the season. And at the end of the season or partway through it, she would not pant at 94, 95, 96.
Wow.
And people are like, oh my God, you let your dog be in the car at 96? I'm like, well, you're going to ask her to work at 100. So yes, I'm going to let my dog be in the car at 94, 95, 96. As long as, and here's the big back to crate conversation, as long as she is incredibly well protected from monitoring, because heat is the leading cause of preventable death. And anecdotally, cars are a leading cause of heat death. That is real. That is, and sometimes they're obviously very extreme cases, but I've seen heat fatalities where it was not that the dog was accidentally left for 12 hours in the car. It was that they came back an hour later after lunch and their dog was dead. That can happen because heat has momentum. So sometimes those dogs get put in the car and their temperature was still going up. And their communication, when they were all hyped up and working, they were lying and saying they were fine. And so they were trying to hide the fact that they were struggling. And maybe we looked at extreme panting, but we didn't, as handlers, used to know that uncontrolled panting was different than extreme panting. And, we didn't know those things back then. So cars are dangerous if they are not monitored. Our primary rule is you have to monitor a dog every 20 minutes in times of high risk. We define high risk as two situations. If any technology fails and your dog dies, that's high risk. Mm-hmm. So if you're counting on your air conditioning, then I'm checking every 20 minutes.
Right.
I think most people get that. The other period of high risk is anytime your dog was working until they come back to baseline for their vehicle. Because temperature has momentum. I don't know, are they actually improving? Are they getting worse? You can put a hot dog in a cool car and they can still have heat stroke.
Right.
So because of their exertion. And so those are the two periods of high risk every 20 minutes. And 20 years ago when we taught that, it sucked because that meant if we went out to lunch, we set timers on our watch and somebody went and every dog. Cameras are cheap and easy. So, and cameras, going back to programming your dog's physiology, cameras is why I can dial my car's temperature beautifully, surgically into just sub-panting. And so when I go to lunch, Storm is on the camera. I'm sitting there. I'm watching her. If she's panting, she gets a little bit more AC. If she's not, she stays fine. And I can really dial in her temperature for safety and acute safety in the moment. And then real-time prevention long-term prevention in terms of programming her biology. So cameras are really, I think.
What do you use?
I'm cheap.
Cheap is great.
Yes.
So I do not have a G-Ride government car.
Nope. I have a minivan.
Yeah, exactly. So I have two main systems. My primary system is a baby camera. It's a VTech baby camera. I already have a battery pack in the car for other reasons. And I already have a Wi-Fi like a hotspot in my car for other reasons. The Wi-Fi cost me $8 a month. The battery pack cost a few $100 once, and I use it for lots of things. And so I just plug the baby camera in, and that gives me cell service if I have it, which a lot of times, if I'm at lunch, I probably have cell service. It gives me the handheld, which in theory, a couple times I've taken to IC, if for whatever reason, it's like 300 yards or something like that. I've taken it to a couple restaurants where I didn't have Wi-Fi and I just parked outside the door. And so I could stand up and look at her every 20 minutes, but I like continual monitoring. And it also has Wi-Fi. So if the facility, and so a lot of places have Starlink if I'm at an IC or, if I'm at a restaurant. I mean, IC and restaurants are kind of
the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are some of the times where we're away from our dog. Or if I'm training and I'm a subject, because for search and rescue, I'm often the subject. So I put my dog up, but then I can monitor her especially as she comes down. There's been a few times where I've called somebody at IC saying, hey, it's been 20 minutes. Normally Storm should stop panting by now, but she's still panting. Hey, can you go just open a window a little bit more, fix whatever. Like my back pops open and they know how to cool the dog as well. So that constant monitoring with a baby camera is super easy. And what I love about baby cameras, it has all the things. It has temperature monitoring. It has night vision, which
yes,
I live in Big Bear. So I have a third row crate of a transcanine. You can't see squat when you're driving. I can't see what she's looking like. I can't see if she's panting. I've actually had cases where I was in the front and I had a little bit of AC on me, but I found out it was blowing hot air on her. And we discovered that because Kai was like, why is her temperature going up? Now, we would have discovered this in 20 minutes because, like we were 10 feet away from her in the car, but he caught it first on the camera, even when we were in the same car.
And that's what I think happens. I don't think the air movement in the back of my van, I have it blowing full on me, but in the back of my van, it's like stifling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so that's where I'm like, no. And it was really funny because I had been talking to my husband, who's an HVAC guy. And I was looking at him about the type of crates that I have. And I was like, I want more holes for ventilation in my crate. And he's like, no.
Structure.
He's like, structure. And if you are going to put a fan on this crate and turn on the fan, you will actually have more focused air movement with fewer holes. Yeah. And I'm like,
wow.
I know, right?
Thanks, Joe.
I know. So that was literally, I went through and all my crates now have fans and they have the little portable, I can do portable like Milwaukee batteries on them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's the perfect thing. So when you have temperature monitoring on your crate, and arguably when you know how to read your dog, so you're temping and you know how to control, if you can read the temperature and you can read the crate temperature, then when people ask me, does XYZ work? You can say, well, you have the tools to answer that.
Right.
So we're huge. And then here's the other thing is, in addition to knowing the temperature in your crate, what's even more important is the condition of your dog.
Yes.
So that's the other reason why, yes, I know there's like all these new temperature sensors for crates, but I want to know the status of my dog more. And so, yes, I do. It was nice. We saw her temperature going up, but even more important, her environmental temperature going up. But even more important is knowing the condition of my dog. Like, I'm not asking, how's your car doing? I'm asking, how's your dog doing?
Right.
And those are two independent questions. And so, yes, they're certainly correlated. And certainly if you see your car temperatures suddenly 100 degrees, then absolutely that's, like usually an emergency and I need to act on that. That is a level 1, that's a start. But knowing how my dog is doing is even more important. And I will get that information long before my temperature goes. And there's no alarms that are 100. So, our alarms are usually at, actually my complaint about alarms, the other thing that I complain about them is they usually top out at 85. And my dog is supposed to be in a car warmer than 85 because she's not heat adapting at 85 anymore.
Yeah.
So I have the visual monitor. I have more control that way too.
Well, and I have indoor outdoor kennels out of my backyard and or out of my basement and in the kennel building. And the amount of acclimation that I see happen in my dogs every year.
For sure.
Yeah.
I know, Stacy, you were amazed last year with even your Nosework stuff.
Yeah. It was amazing. I have a Nosework dog she's working bred, very, very high arousal, will go hot like that. Right.
Yeah.
And last year, because Prize had puppies, we ended up having to, I was staying in Iowa for like 6 months or whatever. And my dog Powder ended up staying mostly in the kennel just because we had logistical things, because taking care of puppies, everything like that. And she developed heat tolerance. And it was like, all of a sudden I took her to a summit and she was like, no big deal.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so here, this is where I became like this huge believer in like, oh my gosh, this whole heat acclimation, even in my sport dog. I mean, I had already I've been paying attention to it with my working dog, but like my sport dog, I'm like, wow, because our search times are short, but to see her have absolutely no problem in really any environment, it was absolutely amazing. It really was amazing. So I also want to ask a question. Because right now, we're going through, oh gosh, by the time this airs, it's going to be March, but even then, different parts of the country, it's very cold. But when you go to other parts of the country, or you get into like parts of the country that get in like this like schizophrenic weather.
I mean, Iowa and Missouri.
Yeah.
I know, like Missouri right now, like, oh my gosh. Now, I was training today and it was 67 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And, like last week it was 30.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, can you talk a little bit about that? Because sometimes we don't think like, oh, it's 70 degrees. The dogs aren't going to be in any kind of danger, but.
Absolutely. So this is something we need better data on, but as a placeholder, we say at least 2 weeks. And really, that's really just when it starts. And so really you need more than 2 weeks. And so a lot of times we don't have the luxury of 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks, whatever full time it's going to take. And so recognizing that my dog is entering that day as a deficit.
Yeah.
My dog is just not programmatically prepared for this. So I am going to create different expectations and different support levels for my dog. That was the case when we went to Hurricane Katrina. We went from the subarctic. So the Winooski is like on Hudson's Bay, like right on the actual bay. And so like we had icebergs one day and New Orleans like 48 hours later.
Wow.
And so you're going to have to support your dog. That's actually where I learned about subcutaneous fluid boluses for the first time. I mean, which is a very common practice, but for me, that was the first time I had needed them for my dog. And so 2 things. One is you don't want to be afraid of the heat, in that you don't want to go like I overreacted back then. And I didn't let my dog outside except unless she was working. And now what I would have done is we would have landed and we would have gone for a light jog. And started, we were there for 10 days. We would have seen a little bit of acclimatization and I made that more extreme. And it depends on your mission. If you're literally going to be there for 48 hours, if you're there for some weird short gig. But most of our things, if you're going to a disaster, you're going to be there for a bit.
Yeah.
The exception would be like if I have a competition and it's literally going to be, I'm in that day and that day, then I will probably protect my dog and keep them as cool as possible, knowing that there's no. So actually when we were at HITS 2 years ago, I just come from Canada. I knew I was not going to be deploying because I was just there as a vendor. There was no scenario where I would get deployed. She was on some meds for some other stuff. So I didn't let her go outside for 5. We played in the vendor hall. But that's very rare and that's very intentional. Usually what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you know what? The weather sucks because it's all over. I'm going to do what I can with what I have in terms of adaptation. And I'm going to pull every other support lever I have. Hydration, other work rest cycles, all those things too.
Well, because I was just thinking about going from like Iowa to New Mexico for the fires.
Yeah.
Or
absolutely.
Iowa to Helene.
Yeah.
And the mountains, right?
Exactly.
Nico's like, I'm an Iowa dog. Are you kidding?
Yeah, exactly. Like what the heck?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just starting that adaptation as much as you can, go slow. Like I'm not saying like go do your usual gig in the heat but supportively and and ideally, like for me, I want to do that ideally initially outside my mission because I usually have better eyes when I'm not on mission.
Yeah.
I control my environment
a little bit better. Right.
When I'm actually on mission, I have less control. That's the nature of the beast. And so, start my acclimatization. I will do a baseline as soon as I land. So everything I knew about my dog that I thought was true a week ago is no longer true. And I have to just reset my baseline and go, who are you today? How are you doing today? And then I would do my baseline every day just to see how has that changed. And it's tough. I mean, so I live in Big Bear, which is at elevation. We're a ski town. And I mean, I do travel a lot with Canine Medic. And so have I run real world training demos in Camp Blanding last year, Florida, where we went into some pretty active cooling because we kind of smoked my dog? Yes, that does happen.
Right.
But you have better eyes. You can go, oh, look, your panting is way not what I expected. And I guess here's the thing. Then I expected. That's the magic word. And it's humbling, especially like you say, if you're working in different temperatures. And if I work in the same town all year and I have pretty predictable seasons, I can know my dog pretty darn well. But when you're traveling all over the country and you've got Mother Nature, schizophrenic weather, a good handler knows when they don't know their dog. They know, they show up and go, you know what? I don't know what you're going to do today because you just got put into an entirely different biological environment. And so here's a game. Here's a challenge for everybody. The game is called Name That Number. So the goal of the game, and you can't do it now, you have to do it with your dog, is to guess their temperature to within half a degree based on all their other vitals before you temp them.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's a excellent game. And I know some handlers who, so the folks I know who do this, who I learned the game from, is from handlers who work in Texas and their dogs are outside. And so they can predict their dog's temperature consistently to half a degree.
Wow.
With Storm, if I'm sometimes we don't travel. So if I've had, a month somewhere, I can do it usually within half a degree. As soon as we travel, I don't know squat about my dog.
Oh, interesting.
And it's humbling.
Yeah.
And we have our flankers play the game too.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I've had a flanker, shout out to Adam Lee, who's actually guessed better than I have.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's very humbling. And when people say, oh, I know my dog, I'm like, but do you?
Yeah.
Let's test the theory.
So we have handlers show up, and this kind of goes back to the crate pad thing, right?
Yes.
When we're talking about like the cooling vests and all of those, or I can't remember which company has the little sun reflector vests, right?
Yeah. The Chili Buddy. I think it's
Chili Buddies and all those sorts of things. Do those actually work?
So I have two answers.
Okay.
The first is my default to answer to everything when somebody says, does this thing work? And I said, ask your dog.
Okay, valid.
So run a scenario and does it improve their panting, their temperature, their mucous membranes, all the things. So the first question I always push back is ask your dog. Having said that, I will answer. So it depends. So the reflective one has some pros and cons. I actually, from a pure physiology, we'll get to functional operations in a second, but from pure physiology and physics, depending on which piece you're looking at, it's incredibly effective. So I do have the silver aluminate thing that goes over my car.
Over my car. I'm talking about the one that your dog wears.
Yes. So, but we've seen the car one improve. So instead of being hotter inside the car, it's 10 degrees cooler inside the car.
Right.
And so in theory, the same thing works on your dog. And so I have seen some handlers who really like it. Having said that, I have never personally worked in an environment where it doesn't just catch on everything and we all hate life.
Yeah.
So I don't use it.
Right.
So
it works in Nosework.
Yeah.
You don't have those kind of environments.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
I have used them with good success. And I've also soaked them in ice water.
Yeah.
Prior to
putting them on. Mm-hmm.
And I do this for more of my delicate flower Brava, who is just like, oh, it's warm today.
Yes.
So
yeah, absolutely. So the physics works. And the physics makes sense. And I've seen it. It works on my car. I've seen it with my car. And I've heard, again, if those environments, and also tactically, it's like sniper bait. So there's that. But if it's an environment that works, then by all means, it's actually a pretty cool tech. It's also lightweight, so you're not burdening the dog. And it's also mesh. So if there is any airflow that you can take advantage of, there's still some opportunity for a little bit of that. Not as much, depending on, but I have seen, and that's probably the one I've seen people like the most. I can tell you that the ones that have the heavy ice packs have a very short life of functional usefulness, and then they're just exertional weight.
Right. Yep. Okay.
So vests themselves have very little impact on cooling. So that's not a problem because they don't sweat. That's not their effective means of cooling themselves. So, for us, if we put that kind of vest on, it would suck. But for them, that's fine. The bigger problem, and not really applicable for most of our dogs, but if you weight it up with a bunch of stuff, it's like carrying a backpack, and then exertionally, they're going to get warmer. Ice packs are heavy, so they add a little bit to their exertional effort, and then they warm up rapidly, and now you're just carrying bricks. it's only useful for a very short period. And if you can swap out that piece.
Right.
There's also evaporative vests, which some people love. And again, ask your dog and support them, have a conversation. Personally, my dog has this really neat evaporative vest built into them. It's called fur.
Yes.
so, since we're going to have to recharge whatever evaporative tool we use, really the question is, are you carrying enough water or it depends on your work environment. If I can have a cold cooler and I can recharge those vests, then sure, absolutely. I would like one of those too. Bring it on. Most of my environments, I can't carry an ice.
Chest.
And if you've got a pile and you're working there and coming back and there and coming back and you've got a support network, heck yeah, bring it all. I have to carry everything that I'm going to need. So for me, just water is so useful. They drink it, they wear it, I decon with it, all the things. And so we've got our flankers on our team, but then usually our teams are assigned to other search teams as well. And so we do joint trainings with everybody. And they've all learned to carry lots of water bottles. And they'll ask permission, but they'll go, as soon as we're rolling up to a stop, they'll go, someone will ask me, hey, can I wet her fur? And they will take a full water bottle and they will get up under the vest. And, as long as, you don't want, it's clean water and her wet fur, it's fine. Some dogs, if they have constantly wet fur, that'll bug them, but it dries in we're in the desert.
She's a lab.
Yeah, she's good. So basically they take 500 ml bottle and they wet her fur at every break. And that's water I didn't have to carry. Amen. And I can do the other things. I can get her, other things ready. And they just automatically recharge her fur. If that's a vest that you prefer, because maybe you've got it for something else, then you need to recharge that vest. Otherwise, it's just a dry chamois and an extra layer. It's just, and honestly, like a lot of the evaporative ones, they're not heavy. They're not going to really do any harm. But I'm low gear unless it gives me a really good advantage.
So one of the things that you said, decon, right?
Yeah.
And I know decon philosophy has changed a little bit since we first started at the Stone Age, right?
Yeah.
And I look at this too, recently coming off, we drove up to Des Moines today and they have like 10 more inches of snow than we do. So there's ice melt everywhere.
Oh,
right. And so when we start talking about deconning our dogs, and so I think about this for the Nosework people, when you're in a winter location and you're walking in to go do something, your dog runs, it's 2 minutes, and then you got to walk back out into the parking lot over the ice melt.
Yeah.
Best you rinse, but we used to do a lot of Dawn, which I don't think that they're doing anymore.
Yeah. So, Dawn has its place, but our dogs are not always little ducklings in a sea of oil. So absolutely. And a big thing, it's funny, we go back to basics a lot. So copious amounts of water. There are some things where that's not applicable, where I'm not going to start. But in many cases, just copious amounts of water is a good choice. Of course, we're also going, when you get into more technical concerns, depending on what you're getting into, we'll do the dry, wet, dry approach and get a bit more detailed. But it's also true that, Dawn is not the solution to everything. I know Chlorhex is also something that people are carrying more just as as by default as well. But I would say it depends on your audience. But in terms of the general canine handler who's not going into, who probably doesn't have other decon training specific to their job, let's say.
Right.
Awareness is your biggest protector. And really recognizing that, hey, I have boots on, they don't. Hey, I have gloves on, they don't. Hey, I'm up here and they're down there. And really recognizing the risks that our dogs can be exposing them to and being uber cognizant of that. And one of the ways we address that is something we call a T-check. So that's a transitions check. And it's a pause and it's It's literally 2 minutes. So if we talk about time, it's only going to take 2 minutes. Every time my dog goes from one thing to the other, search, training, the park, whatever, to another, which often for us means getting in the car because we do things outside the house. I get a hands on every surface, lots of detail on the paws. And we do a 5-point paw inspection. So toenails, paw pads, toenails, webbing. So detailed paws, because in terms of deconning, paws are often the thing that is our biggest worry. It's also just minor injuries get caught up in there too. So every time they get in the car, we're thinking about what could my dog have gotten into that they didn't tell me about. They didn't go, oh, ow, that hurt. Or, oh gosh, that's burning, or, things like that. And they often don't feel it because of their fur and paw pads and things like that. What could my dog have gotten into chemically, environmentally, or injury-wise that I don't know about? And take a 2-minute timeout before I go on to the next thing and get some eyes on and some hands on and actually, does my dog need decon? Knowing that is really the big overlooked step, I would say, in that piece.
Well, yeah, and I know one of the things that on the incidents that I've been on, we'll put on booties, and oh my God, putting booties on is like this whole thing.
Yes.
And then you start getting, because guess what? Dogs also get rub spots on their dew claws when you have booties. And so you actually have to, people can't see me doing this. You have to put little things in there. And then, it's this whole...
It's a thing.
It's a thing. And even when you have duct tape booties on your dog, guess what still gets through duct tape booties? Sand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right? And the biggest thing that we started seeing were the micro abrasions that were happening in between the pads on your dog. So it goes back to one of the things that now lives in my pack is the little paw washing thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And it's just, okay, every time you get in the car, because here's the other thing about deconning people. You put your dog in the car, guess what you now have to decon?
Yes.
Yep. Your crate.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Yeah. And your crate pad and and you can't wash your dog off and then throw them back in the crate that you just recontaminated your dog.
Exactly.
Right. So I think about that as I walk my puppies through the salt, right?
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things that, like, when we're laying around tonight, I'll check everybody's pads because we walked through ice melt today.
100%.
Right. And they're probably fine because we also hit the snowbank on the way back to the car.
Little mini decon.
Yes. Little tiny mini decon, but it was probably sufficient, but I will also check their pads.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things, just the more you are checking out your dog. So we do a formal T-check before she gets in the car. Part of her, yes, she sleeps in the bed. So that's just our thing. But one of the advantages is she gets a nighttime belly rub, but was actually an inspection, and she's going to give me every paw. So did I miss it? Because and do I sometimes miss T-checks? Yes, my husband will tell you, absolutely, I sometimes miss T-checks. But we're pretty good, especially if we saw some kind of environment. Like right now, it's just ice. So did she get whatever paw stuff? But then nighttime is our full check, and check. It's just part of our, you're going to get a belly rub. We're going to check your ears. We're going to do all the things that I skimped over real quick because we were trying to get off site. But then we'll do at least a little one, and then we'll do a full one. And that does a bunch of things. One is it builds a relationship because you're not doing it like an inspection. I want it to be like, hey, how are you doing? Not, we are now at the doctor's office. And so it's very consent-based and relationship-based. It desensitizes them. So in the field, when it's like, no, really, I need to look at your paw now. She's already had that constant exposure. And so the things I do all day, every day, set me up for more success on the days that go sideways.
Right. And another little handy tidbit for those people who it just in general, keep a white washcloth in your pack. You can do a really, really fast T-check or something just by running a white washcloth around your dog, because you know what? When you have a brown dog that you can't really see, or a really hairy dog, and all of a sudden you do a vet check and it comes back with a little bit of blood on it, you're like, where'd that come from?
Yep. Absolutely. And I'd rather find that out before I find it in my kitchen.
Yes, exactly. I'd rather have to deal with that out in the field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We do takeaways.
Yeah. I know what my takeaway is.
Okay. What's your takeaway?
I am getting a baby monitor. You know, the thing is, I've got a Jackery that I drive around with, right? And I've got this little mobile Wi-Fi that I have like this unlimited plan on that just connects to any cellular network. And that'd be easy. Like that would just be the easiest thing. Yeah.
It's so much confidence. I just feel so much, I get more freedom. It's great.
Yeah. So I'm getting a baby monitor. That's my takeaway.
I have 2 baby monitors because breeding.
I know, right?
Right. So I have baby monitors. Right. And so I like the Leapfrog ones because not only will my Leapfrog ones I can set temperature alarms on them. It also has a noise monitor. And yes, absolutely on the night vision thing. So I've got those. My big takeaway is I already knew about the acclimation stuff, but for me, it was hugely validating on it's okay to shut the door so that the kennel is hotter than my house. Really, really sad, but we have the way my basement is set up is that I can close the door. And so there is air conditioning in there. They have water.
Yeah.
All of the things, even the kennels.
It's just not house cool.
It's not house cool. But the kennels out in my kennel room have ceiling fans in them.
Yes,
we
they
put
do.
ceiling fans.
Nice.
And they work really well.
They work awesome. And I have a whole house fan in there so I can.
Because you have HVAC resources.
I do have HVAC resources because my husband's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah.
And his info will be in the link. No.
Actually don't call him.
No. Don't call Joe.
He's like,
Just don't. No.
He's kind of antisocial.
He's like, I got
enough. Yeah. So, Joey, do you have any takeaways?
Yeah, well, it's funny because the whole temperature thing, it's like I find that there are so many interconnections, right? Where I go, I don't need to know about reproductive stuff. That's not my wheelhouse. But I have to know because not certainly to any degree, but there's so much overlap. Like when people go, well, what are some other reasons my dog's temperature could be this? And I have been asked a few questions about reproductive temperature things. And I'm like, I have no clue. So I will endeavor to get a better clue.
Yeah. Well, and that is actually fascinating because, we know dogs like 62 days, right? And about day 60, you start taking temperature twice a day because you're looking for that temperature drop.
So when you're neurotic and you see your dog, because you know your dog and your dog is not looking right, and you start taking the temperature and you're like, hey, Robin, knock, 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 it's 2 a.m. Her temperature is dropping. And it turns out her progesterone was dropping and we would have lost the litter. The whole litter had I not gone into the repro vet. Yeah. I mean, it's a thing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's so much.
I got totally neurotic, but
this is not shocking for many people, Stacy.
Well, no. What I'm saying is that I was appropriately neurotic.
You were appropriate. Absolutely.
I was absolutely appropriate. I'm still a little shocky over it, but yeah.
And I see the temperature thing for me is something that when we have handlers come in for distraction camp and intentional handling and hide setting this summer, they're coming from wherever they're coming in the country and they're dropping into the middle of Iowa with a heat index of probably 100 and ambient temperatures around 85 or something weird.
Corn sweat real.
corn sweat's real. And Joy's like,
what is corn sweat?
So the actually growing corn sweats.
Oh.
And it creates all of the humidity.
Okay, thank you.
So we call it corn sweat. And
so dogs don't sweat, but corn does. Got it.
Yes.
Corn does, yes.
And you can a lot. And
a lot.
Speaking as someone who is sat in the middle of a cornfield in July, you can hear corn grow. So yeah, it creaks. So having some of that information and being able to talk about this as, okay, now we're going into a work cycle. This is what you need to do. We have cooling stations set out for the dogs, all and tents and all sorts of things. So it will make it a much safer, much more informative summer.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yay. Thank you so much for everybody. We will have all of the links and everything in the show notes, and go trade.
Canine Detection Collaborative.